everyone, and welcome again to another exciting adventure of Calvary Connection podcast.
All right.
Our final one for Lent.
Oh yeah, the energy is here.
It is, absolutely. We've got our final text as we gather together.
Unbelievable.
These ones that we've been looking at about listening to God and listening to each other. And today, on our final text, we're actually going kind of back to the beginning, right? Going back to the book of Genesis, where we're hearing some of the first stories we find in Scripture.
Boy, I love these texts we've picked out.
Yeah, every one of them. All right.
And today is what? Abraham, he's already got a new name.
Yep.
Abraham and Sarah, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Pastor Susan, you want to give us the story?
I'd love to give you the story. It's from the 18th chapter of Genesis. The Lord appeared to Abraham by the oaks of Mamre as he sat at the entrance of his tent in the heat of the day. He looked up and saw 3 men standing near him. When he saw them, he ran from the tent entrance to meet them and bowed down to the ground. He said, "My Lord, if I find favor with you, do not pass by your servant. Let a little water be brought, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. Let me bring a little bread, that you may refresh yourselves, and after that you may pass on, since you have come to your servant." So they said, "Do as you have said." And Abraham hastened into the tent to Sarah and said, "Make ready quickly 3 measures of choice flour, knead it, and make cakes." Abraham ran to the herd and took a calf, tender and good, and gave it to the servant who hastened to prepare it. Then he took curds and milk and the calf that he had prepared and set it before them, and he stood by them under the tree while they ate. They said to him, "Where's your wife Sarah?" And he said, "They're in the tent." Then one said, "I will surely return to you in due season, and your wife Sarah shall have a son." And Sarah was listening at the tent entrance behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in age. It had ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. So Sarah laughed to herself, saying, "After I've grown old, and my husband is old, shall I have pleasure?" The Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Shall I indeed bear a child now that I am old?' Is anything too wonderful for the Lord? At the set time I will return to you in due season, and Sarah shall have a son." But Sarah denied, saying, "I did not laugh," for she was afraid. He said, "Oh yes, you did laugh."
The end of the story.
And we all shared a laugh. It's funny. Like, it's genuinely kind of funny, this interaction.
Yeah.
And awe-inspiring, obviously.
It is, and I just love that final question. We'll get back up to the front part, which is also really good. But is anything too wonderful for the Lord?
Right.
Yeah.
I love, it's a rhetorical question, because the answer is no.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing too wonderful for the Lord. It's just a great one.
Kind of harkens to when Jesus is speaking with the disciples about the camel in the eye of the needle piece.
Yeah.
About how nothing is impossible for God.
Yeah.
Nothing is too wonderful for God. I like this phrasing a lot.
I do
Wonderful.
too.
Yeah.
I do too. It kind of got to me.
Yeah, and the laughter is such a joyous expression of that. You know, the laughter takes so many different meanings, but I always think of the experiences in my life where I'm so overcome with emotions, good or bad, usually good, and I can't think of any other way to respond to them than just laughing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
At the ridiculousness, the excitement, the awe, and I think that's really shown here in Sarah.
And laughter really is an interesting thing if you think about it. I mean, it's a universally human thing.
Right.
No matter what culture you're from,
Yeah.
wherever you are on the planet, everyone has the experience of laughter.
Babies laugh before they know what
Exactly.
laughter is.
Exactly.
Right?
And so it's really an ingrained part of being human that we can all relate to in a really personal way.
Yeah, and I think about the setting for this, which is, you know, the men are outside, they're eating what really an incredible feast.
Yeah.
And Sarah's inside And of course, the tent walls are very thin. And so that I just envision Sarah literally, just right at the entrance to the tent and just kind of overhearing the conversation. Yeah. Which then, and Sarah's going to have a son. It's like, you've got, what?
Yeah.
So I have her and I think it does say something, she laughed to herself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she was like, oh.
Because the idea was a funny thing.
Yeah. And God was right there listening and entering into it. And not with a word of, how dare you laugh like I am the Lord your God, but just, why are you laughing? This is good.
I'm being truthful.
I'm being truthful,
Yeah, it's just wonderful. And of course, God has to be in on this because God had promised them to make them a nation.
That's right.
And so,
we are deep into
they're
that.
sort of the time bomb is clicking. I mean, there's tick, 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 and so it's about time.
This is God basically saying, "No, I'm still serious about that promise. It's still going to happen.
I haven't forgotten you."
Exactly. I do like. How you had mentioned this briefly, but how much this speaks to the hospitality that is present here.
Right.
It's lavish.
It is. They don't know these three people now. Is that some kind of allusion to the Trinity? I don't know.
Yeah.
But they don't know these three men that are there.
No.
And Abraham just immediately leaps as though that's the most important thing in the world to offer them and to beg them to be able to give them the most hospitality ever.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's just incredible.
And we talked last week about Mary and Martha, right?
Yeah.
And this push and pull that we're experiencing in these texts of listening to others, serving others, when we leap to action to give, when we sit still. And God shows up in both of those, when we sit still and listen, when we serve and act. And it's a process of discernment, I think, what service looks like. But there's listening here too. Exactly.
And I think, because she's listening. She's wanting to be a part of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the spoiler alert in the very first verse. The Lord appeared to Abraham.
Yeah.
That's a spoiler alert. To the rest of the story is these three guys. It's just this wonderful hospitality, and you just sit there and wait for people to come and then kill a calf.
Mm-hmm.
And but the Lord. So we know Abraham does it. Who knew?
Yeah.
Anything else that jumps out at anyone here?
I think the direction I'm thinking about as we focus on our ideas of listening to God and listening to each other, I think we're going to focus on listening through the impossible, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It is the kind of theme that we had come up with.
Right.
And I think this really doubles down on everything we've talked about, but especially the calling story a couple of weeks ago. Because God calls us into places and professions and work in our lives that can feel impossible. Like, God, you want me to go into ministry? I'm sure we've all had moments in our lives where, really, this is what you want me to do?
Yeah.
And it can feel like there's no way that this can happen. But through listening and discerning and trusting, because the trust that Abraham and Sarah had that God would fulfill God's promise this late into their life, we have proof, right?
Yeah.
We have Isaac.
Is there anything that is too wonderful for
the Lord? Yeah.
No, and when we partner with the Lord.
Yeah, and I think one of the things not to be missed for me is, as we began long ago, like 4 weeks ago, thinking about Jesus listening. And so we had those beautiful stories of Jesus at 12.
Yeah.
Samuel, I think, much younger.
Yup.
And that we conclude in this listening to God and each other with these aging ones.
Oh yeah.
And I love the fact that what this also says is that God continues to bring forth wonderful things, whether you are 12 or 6 or 95.
Yeah.
And that there continues to be possibilities of surprise. And I think the laughter is that things still happen when you're
Of advanced age.
There's still joy.
Well, yeah,
and there's still unknown surprise.
Yeah,
you haven't seen it all yet.
No, that's exciting.
And I just, just one more surprise. Isn't that one of the hymns that we sing?
Yeah, Born and Cry.
And Born and Cry, and that just, so. Yeah. Anyway, I love the fact that we've really captured. I mean, in some way, Mary and Martha and Samuel and Eli and Jesus and Lydia and her household have really become a part of my people journeying through Lent with.
Absolutely.
Including all of you and you guys that are all here. But
Absolutely.
They've been wonderful companions.
And I think this is a great transition, too, as we approach the end of Lent and our Easter season and Holy Week, because the impossible is the cross in a nutshell, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And God fulfilling
and that
God's
empty
promises
tomb,
there, too.
The stone rolled away.
God is waiting with just one more surprise.
That's right.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
And we look forward to celebrating that surprise with all of you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So come and join us for our Holy Week experiences. We've got a lot of services. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Easter Sunday too. There's all kinds of things that.
And we got one more Wednesday.
And one more Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Tomorrow night. Right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It was impossible, but
noon and Bible study we get to have. Yeah.
Yes.
So soup is waiting, study's waiting, and the other thing is that God is waiting for the greatest surprise.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Let us come and listen together.
Yeah.
And thank again for you all for joining us, and we'll see you around. We love you very much.
Peace.
Peace.